Welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast, the #1 marketing and practice growth podcast for high-performing private practice hearing care leaders. It's Friday, and this is my end-of-week roundup of what's top of mind after 7 days of helping some of the world's best private practices to attract high-quality patients, fight the evil forces of manufacturer-owned chains, and be impossible to compete with. My name's Ollie Luke. Pull up a chair, pour yourself a drink, and let's have a chat. Hello and welcome along to another episode of the Business of Hearing podcast. And today we're talking value proposition because it's probably the most substantial thing that you can do right now in order to protect yourself and ensure that you thrive in what is coming. Because, look, I could have been clickbaity about this and called it something like the most important thing to do right now, but truly, I believe it is. And here's why. Because we're seeing the market changes that occur right now. And I think the biggest threat right now is manufacturer-owned chains, right? I follow kind of Amplifon. They release press releases sharing what's going on. And even now in 2024 up to now, like they purchased 35 points of sale, i.e. locations across Pennsylvania. They made another big acquisition of a existing group, taking it back from franchisees. But like I was just looking at the data then, I've got my laptop down here. 350 direct points of sale and 1,200 franchisees across the US of Miracle-Ear, essentially, which is kind of Amplifon's consumer-led brand. Now, what benefit have they got? Well, look, their marketing department probably costs more than your annual revenues. It probably cost what your annual revenues will be over the next 5 to 10 years. Like they spend a huge amount on marketing. And much of what they do is say, look, we are the better option, right? They market against you, whether you like it or not. It is the harsh truth of what it is, because like private practice has took dominance for a long time and it still has dominance, but that fight for power is occurring where we really do have a David versus Goliath. And we know more boomer patients are coming. And if a boomer patient goes and does their research online, well, firstly, we've got the more reputable household brand of Miracle-Ear. Like they're just a little more well-known. They've spent a lot more in advertising and reputation building. And really, if a consumer's looking at it, they go, do I go to the safe big brand that has got a big reputation, which somewhat subtly, rightly or wrongly, suggests that it's a more trustworthy decision? Or do I go for a small independent? And if they're doing their due diligence right now, if the small independent doesn't have a good battle of why the David should beat Goliath, then the risks are that the Goliath will continually win. So the way that you show up, the way you articulate your points of difference, the way you educate the consumer to choose you and understand why they should choose you over all the other options available to them, including one of the options being doing nothing, is significant. It's a key piece of work. So in this episode, I really want to share how you can define your value proposition, because we all probably know we should have a sharper edge. We should be able to explain who we are and what we do a little better. I'm going to explain some frameworks that you may potentially benefit from, because fundamentally, these 4 kind of groups that every business, regardless of the industry, values proposition falls into. I'm going to share 4 of these. I'm going to share examples of businesses that we all know well that sit in these types of value propositions. And then I may hint towards some practices that also have chosen one of these 4 lanes and done a great job with it. Sound good? All right, well, let's look at the 4. And I'm going to give you the first one. The first one is a convenience-led value proposition. Now, if we think of a big business that has a convenience-led value proposition, it's hard to look past Amazon. Right? Like Amazon, fundamentally, everything they build is focused on ease of transaction. So think about your ordering process. Like Amazon, 1 click, done. You want to return it, 1 click, done. You buy something, there's something that would complement it nicely, 1 click, done. Like everything is aimed at making it so easy to part you with your money, or at least make it easy for you to make buying decisions, add subscriptions on things they see you ordering more than once, and all of a sudden, you've got a much more convenient way of purchasing. You compare going to Amazon to buy anything versus a traditional way of going to the grocery store or going shopping for individual things from different shops, then like Amazon's value prop of convenience is so key. Now, there's practices that do this, and dare I say, someone like a Miracle Ear is a strong one, right? Come to any of our locations, doesn't matter. There's some of the benefits of being with a bigger group. They've probably got a better support network. If you need to call them, you could probably get through to someone who will try and help you on the phone. Like, convenience is probably the value prop that they're steering most towards. But it's an opportunity. Like, that's the first of 4. Number 2, the second one is price, right? This is often the go-to value proposition for many businesses that want more. They think, lower my prices, I will get more customers. Not always the case. In fact, lowering your prices to try and get more customers is probably the silliest move you can make, because you may lower your prices, but you're cutting your margins, which means that you need a significant more number of customers, and it is a fight to the bottom where you're never going to win that fight, because there's always somebody with better costs of goods and economies of scale that you don't have, especially in our industry. But you could build a price-based value proposition, and if we look at who has a great value-based, price-based value proposition, it's hard to look past Costco, right? Because Costco, like, are they actually cheaper than many other places? Probably not, but they lean into that. Like, be a member. You get access to all this. We're going to give you big things because that makes cost savings. We're going to have our prices huge next to anything. And I don't know about you, every time I go to Costco, I look at the televisions and I'm like, these are like the most expensive TVs I've ever seen, like $5,000-$10,000 or pounds in my instance, televisions. And I'm like, is this cheaper? Or is this just like the illusion that your belief system when you walk in there is things are cheap and you're a smart, wise consumer for being in that space and making your buying decisions in that space? But they've done a great job with that. They educate their consumers to think they're being smart by shopping with them, and they lean very hard into it through a membership card, which gives some form of exclusivity and I feel special. It's a very well done job. And if you think of brands with a price-based value proposition, Costco are a prime example. What else have we got? The third one, experience. Now, experience is an interesting one because it's somewhat subjective, and I think the best example here that articulates value propositions is Starbucks. Because if you think about the 2 biggest giants in the US economy for coffee, you look at Dunkin' and you look at Starbucks. Both are very, very different, right? What's Dunkin's philosophy? It's more convenience, right? It's grab on the go, keeping America fueled, whatever their slogan is, right? It's come in, don't spend any time, get out the door. Like, get your coffee, get out the door. Don't try and sit down. You can't come to the restrooms, and if you do, we're going to give you some form of cryptic code to try and get in. Like, they don't want you to spend time there. They just want to get the coffee and get out the door. Whereas Starbucks, a little different, right? It's come and spend time. Lots of seating areas, access to restrooms, you've got PowerPoints everywhere, bring your laptop, bring a friend, bring a book. You are here for a few hours, not a few minutes. Like, they're trying to go for the experience. The coffee, is it any better? That's subjective, but it feels like a nicer experience. Like, it almost feels like a day out to take the kids and go and sit in Starbucks for a couple of hours and then head home, right? Nobody takes the kids to Dunkin' with the thought of making a nice experience or family day out. Like, it's got that much different experience, and there's a lot of other brands that naturally lean into experience. You can pick out any experience-based brand, whether that be Rolex watch, whether that be a premium airline, whether that be a premium car dealership. Like, they're always leaning towards people come here for the experience. They don't necessarily come here because they want price or they want convenience. In fact, buying with us is going to be significantly harder. Like, Rolex are the prime example here. Nobody buys a Rolex for the convenience of getting a watch or telling the time. Nobody buys it because they want to make a smart buying decision. They want it for the experience. They want it for the status play. They want it because other people can't have it, and it somewhat makes them feel special in certain environments. Like, it's interesting how Rolex are an absolute unicorn in many ways, which we'll talk about in future episodes. A lot of lessons to learn from that business, but they firmly sit in the experience. And the fourth category is purpose. Like, a purpose-based brand that makes you feel good about yourself and making a decision through them. So Tom Shoes would be a good example, right? They had the buy one, give one thing for many, many years. It's been changed ever so slightly now to be a proportion of the investment or proportion of your investment goes towards doing good in the world. But when you're looking at shoes and you're trying to make a buying decision between that and that, like, depending on in which way you're inclined, you can feel good about making that buying decision. You make that buying decision, you know that somebody else in the world's going to feel good as a result of that decision, and that fills your heart up and you're more inclined to make that buying decision. Now, in terms of hearing care, we can almost apply different practices to each of these. If we did look at more the Miracle-Ear in the convenience, you look at Costco in the price, you look at some practices that lean into the $99 a month options, or we start our prices down here, certainly some that sit there. Experience is a group that I think most practices should fall into as independent private practices that want to do a great job with their patients and create points of difference against everybody else. But then the purpose one is interesting. Like, we work with an Inner Circle member, and purpose is a big part of what they do. Every decision that a patient makes to invest, they take a proportion of that profit and go and do some good in the world. They go on mission trips, they go and reinvest that money in order to help other people around the world who don't have access to better hearing to achieve better hearing. There's also some other practices that lean into purpose that have almost a give back program. You know, you buy devices from us, and when you're ready to upgrade, we'll buy them back from you. Find somebody else in the community that doesn't have the financial means to invest in better hearing and help them be fit into your existing old reconditioned devices. You step into new ones, and it works really nice like that. But if I'm in your shoes right now as a private practice hearing care leader that potentially doesn't have a value proposition that feels like it creates a immense point of difference against your competitors, these are the 4 groups I'd be looking at. Like, if I look at these 4, where do I fit in? What feels in line with who you are? And if I had to map out almost a dream clinic now with a value proposition, I think there's a real sweet spot between experience and purpose. If you can get that bit right, I feel you've got an immense opportunity. And what's experience? It means that it's the red carpet experience when patients walk in. They come to you because they're made to feel awesome. When they walk through the door, the person behind the counter, the desk, knows their name. They're welcomed by name. The person behind the desk remembers their coffee preference from their last appointment, and they're presented with that cup of coffee. They're then led through to meet the same provider at every appointment who they build a relationship with. They feel awesome. The communication pre-appointment, post-appointment is on point. I feel that stuff is so key. Match that with a little bit of purpose, which means that you feel good about choosing them because they're going to do more good work in the community, or they care about local business in the community, or help grow the community, or hire from within the community, then I feel you get this really nice combination that creates a sweet spot. And if you can articulate it well and prove it well, then you're sat in a nice position to market against these big Goliaths that don't care about your community, they care about profiting from your community. The Costco stores where, yeah, you will be able to get some low-cost devices, but the experience and the service is going to be dramatically different. And what achieves better hearing is a lot more than a pair of devices. It's great hearing care, including a pair of devices. The more that narrative becomes clear, the more you can educate a well-educated boomer consumer who wants to do their due diligence, wants to do their research, wants to feel smart about their decision to choose you. So this is something I'd be working on. And, you know, I've spoken in the past about understanding the value of activities in your business. There's $10 per hour tasks, there's $100 per hour tasks, there's $1,000 per hour tasks. Many of us as business owners get sucked into those $10 an hour tasks because somebody needs to do them. And most of the time, we kind of sat in that $100 an hour tasks. If you can focus on them $1,000 or $10,000 an hour tasks, like defining your value proposition, getting your pricing right, doing the work in order to collect the evidence that you are who you say you are, building the right team culture, then you're going to elevate your business by playing in the right role in your business. And one of those big value tasks is getting your value proposition absolutely razor sharp. Because having been around a long time, being nice people or having a good reputation is not enough. It kind of was with the silent generation, like who you've served for the past 20 years. It did the job. You were local, you were trusted. They had a safe pair of hands that they felt they could come to. Right now, you're marketing against bigger giants to a consumer that will know everyone in the market as well as you, and you've got to put a good narrative across of why they should choose you. Get that bit right, it'll take care of a lot of the rest of your marketing and make it flow and make sense. But trying to do any form of advertising on shaky terrible foundations means that it is going to crumble down and you're going to have to keep spending advertising dollars to try and get that next patient. Work on the core foundations, work on your value proposition, and everything else will make a significant amount more sense. So that's it for this week's episode. I appreciate you lending me your ears, your valuable time, your valuable minutes, and I'll be back again next week with another episode. If you did catch the audio of this, make sure you go and catch the video. I have put a few downloads in there so you can access a breakdown of these 4 value propositions with real life practices that have done the work in order to find one of these 4 camps. So you'll be able to see exactly how they've done it. It's on businessofhearing.com. Go there, navigate to this episode, and you'll see those downloads there so you can go and access them and start practically putting your value proposition into place to be razor sharp against your competitors. Speak to you again soon. And there we have it. Another episode has come to an end, and I have a quick favour to ask. If you have found this helpful, then who do you know who should listen to this podcast? I strongly believe a rising tide lifts all boats, and right now, private practice needs to stick together to fight these big, gormless groups and these manufacturer-owned Goliaths that are looking to take market share from us. Consider who should be listening, pass on the word about the Business of Hearing podcast, and I'll see you again next week.